Hello everyone, welcome to this week's video, which is bulk snack meal prep. As you can see, there's lots of goodies and all of the muffins. So the first thing I'm going to make are those delicious looking sweet muffins. So what we'll need is a quarter of a cup of milk. We also need 3/4 of a cup of plain yogurt, teaspoon of salt. We actually need baking soda, not baking powder. So sorry about that. 1 1/4 teaspoons, 1 egg, 2 mashed bananas, a quarter a cup of canola oil, 1 2/3 cup of plain flour, just a teaspoon of vanilla extract, 2 tablespoons of brown sugar, 2/3 of a cup of granulated sugar, and then, as I mentioned, these I do blueberry and chocolate, so that's what we've got at the end there. So I did a cup of blueberries, or for the cocoa, we have 2 tablespoons. So just preheating the oven, so 375 degrees Fahrenheit, just like 180 degrees Celsius. So you can see for these blueberry muffins, I'm doubling the batch, so just be aware when you're watching. As you can see, I've got my little helper today. So Blake absolutely loves cooking in the kitchen with me. I got her, I think they're called learning towers. I got it for her about 1.5 years ago, and she absolutely loves it. So she can be at my level, counter level, help cook, pour things, mash, everything like that. So definitely a great investment, guys. I definitely highly recommend it. So basically the whole reason I'm doing this bulk prep is I'm about 100 years pregnant, or in real time 29 weeks. Feels like 100 years. And I just really wanted to have snacks ready to go up until baby came. I know as I get more pregnant, I'm going to get more tired, and I just wanted to avoid just buying crap snacks out on the go. This way, it saves me a lot of money, and I know what goes into each thing I'm making.
That was mashed enough? Does that look good, Blake?
Yep.
Okay. Of course. Good job. Stir, stir, stir.
I'm making muffins for Daddy.
Oh, no, these muffins are for us.
Muffins for us.
Yeah, they're our yummy blueberry muffins, hey?
So for anyone who hasn't heard my rant, I am a cheapskate through and through. I'm all about home brand, but please, for vanilla, get the good stuff. Same with cocoa powder. I find it makes such a big difference in what you're baking. So please just give it a try. Now you can see with sugars, I'm still using up this stevia sort of a mixture that I got from a discount grocery store ages ago. So I am adding quite a lot less sugar. I'm adding about half the amount of sugar. But even when I've used standard white sugar, I've found that a lot goes a long way, especially when you're doing the blueberry ones, because you've already got fruit in there. So definitely don't feel like you have to add a huge amount of sugar. They are really delicious just as they are. Look at me, guys. I'm proper baking today. I've got the sieve out. I do like to use it when I am making cakes or muffins or that sort of thing when I can be bothered, as it definitely does kind of make for a fluffier sort of texture. So yeah, if you've got one, use it. It does make a difference. If you can't be bothered, don't worry, I've also made these muffins without it and they turn out delicious. But if you want them extra delicious, give them a go. So you can see I'm just sieving, if that's a term, in the flour little bits at a time just so it can get stirred in and well incorporated. So as I mentioned, I did a double batch, but I got about 4 trays done. So you definitely get more than one standard tray in each sort of batch, maybe because I bulked it out with the blueberries. Now they don't look so pretty because I did defrost the blueberries a bit so the juice leaked. So what you can always do is use frozen blueberries, have them completely frozen and just dust them in flour beforehand before putting them in the batter. So that way they distribute evenly and they're not going to bleed so much in colour. So should have done that. Doesn't matter, they're equally as delicious this way, but just keep that in mind, and you may need to increase the cook time a little bit, of course, if you're adding frozen blueberries in. So as you can see, I'm using my handy little cookie scooper to put everything into the muffin tins, 3 scoops in the big one and then just 1 scoop in the mini muffins. So in terms of cook time, I mean, everyone's oven is different, but I found 12 minutes for the mini muffins was perfect and 22 minutes for the big muffins. Completed muffins. So delicious. It's one of my favorite recipes. All the details in the description box below for you guys. So the next thing we're making are the savory muffins. So I went a bit rogue, but the recipe calls for half a cup of cheese. I add some sun-dried tomatoes for flavor, 1 cup of milk, 3/4 of a cup of ham, 1 egg. Also calls for some butter, which I don't end up using, 2 cups of flour, and again, the packet of spinach. I went a bit rogue. But I'll show you guys as we go along. Don't worry, making it up is good. So basically for this recipe, it's super easy. It just tells you to add everything at once and stir in, which I did. So as I mentioned, for flavor, I decided to add in some old sun-dried tomatoes that I had to use up. So that's what's gone in there. Also added in some mozzarella, I guess instead of plain cheddar, just to kind of give it a more Mediterranean flavor. Guys, this baby brain is real, so bear with me while I try and figure out my life. Added frozen spinach as well. So I found with the frozen spinach, I did have to add a slight bit more flour just because it is quite liquidy. So just keep that in mind. And as I mentioned, I just didn't feel like doing butter. It was supposed to be 125 grams melted per batch. So obviously that's adding a lot of calories. Yeah, so I thought I'd go rogue. So I have done it before where I've added um, Greek yogurt instead of butter. So you'll see that I add that. Plus, I had all that extra oil from the sun-dried tomatoes. So I didn't want it overly greasy, guys. So you'll see shortly how much Greek yogurt I add. Kind of just add it till you get to a nice texture that you like. But yeah, definitely an option if you're looking kind of for low calorie, low fat. Now that's the perfect consistency that we want. So obviously if yours isn't quite that, if it's a bit more dry, add some more liquid, or if it's too wet, add a little bit more flour. That's the great thing about adding it all at once. You can kind of just adjust as you need it. So I basically just made big muffins for this one. So for the oven, it needs to be heated to 180 degrees Celsius, which I think was the same as the last recipe, which makes it nice and easy. So this one I played around a bit with temperature, obviously because I kind of went rogue with the recipe. So I found that the best, what worked best for this recipe was 25 minutes at 200 degrees. So I ended up bumping up the heat a little bit just so I could get nice and brown on top. However, the original recipe actually calls for 20, oh, it says 15 to 20 minutes, which doesn't seem like enough. The original batch I did for 27 minutes at 180 degrees. So obviously just make sure you're using like your little knife to test it, and whatever works with your oven. And that's a completed muffins. So good, guys. Definitely give it a try. On to our next recipe, so the Cranberry Almond Bliss balls. So we need half a cup of nut butter. You can see I used peanut butter. 1 cup of oats. So you do need 1 tablespoon of ground flaxseed. So I used LSA mix instead. 1 tablespoon of chia seeds. 1/3 of a cup of cranberries. Now this says 1/3 of a cup sweetened shredded coconut. I used normal coconut and it was great, guys. So let's avoid the extra sugar. 1/4 of a cup of honey, and then a 1/3 cup of chopped almonds. So you guys ready to see a 20-minute montage of me chopping up almonds? I have a food processor. I have no idea why I didn't use it. Use your food processor, guys. Use your Vitamix. I don't know, whatever you've got. If you don't have one, don't do this recipe because this was tedious. Or you can buy chopped almonds. I think you can buy it with peanuts. You could definitely use peanuts. Anyway, delicious recipe, worth it, but yeah, only if you've got a food processor. So I end up doing half the amount for the recipe. So basically with the oats, the shredded coconut and the almonds. I pop them into the oven for 10 minutes at 350 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about 180 degrees Celsius, just to kind of brown it off a little bit. So make sure you give it a shake at 5 minutes just so it doesn't burn. Then we melt the peanut butter just so it becomes an amazing ooey gooey mess. And then we add the rest of the ingredients as well. So one of the tips, you can see I don't do it here because why would I? Is don't even bother trying to mix it with a spoon. It's not going to happen. Mix it with your hands, but just make sure your hands are wet first, and that way you can kind of mix everything together and form the balls without making a big mess. So I am a huge fan of Bliss balls, and they freeze really well. Actually, all of these recipes freeze for up to 3 months, which is another reason I do it. It's perfect. But don't feel afraid to sub in things that you might not have. So instead of honey, you could definitely use like rice malt syrup. Instead of dried cranberries, of course, you could use any other dried fruit, dried blueberries, dried apples. And instead of oats, you could use, I don't know, what are all these other fancy grains out there? Maybe you could use quinoa. I don't know, maybe don't try that. But there's lots of things you could substitute to make them just right. And they're just so nutritious and filling. Now, I doubled this recipe and it didn't make a ton, guys. It probably made about 20. So just keep that in mind. It's not the cheapest snack idea ever, but as I mentioned, really nutritious, delicious, and good just to have every now and then as a special treat. I'm just finishing off the rest of the balls and then chuck them in the freezer so they can set, but that's a completed product. And here is all my meal prep. I feel so accomplished, guys. We're set for the next couple of months. As I said, it's way cheaper, nice and healthy. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.